Hey there, and welcome to Scaling Up Your Impact. I'm your host, Kelly Smythe Dent, the founder of Scaling Up, here with some quick insights, tips, and tools for therapists. Don't forget to sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You'll get the latest episodes, workbooks, and practical resources to support your growth. You'll find the link right in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Scaling Up Your Impact podcast. I'm Robyn with Scaling Up. I'm really excited once again to bring someone amazing to you and have a great conversation to share. We have really enjoyed sharing trauma-informed tools, mindset shifts, and clinical strategies for therapists who want to grow without burning out. And we also love bringing conversations and stories, ideas and imaginations from other therapists doing just that. So I'm really thrilled to be talking with Tony Parmenter. He's one of our consultants at Scaling Up, and he has an amazing practice, does some really cool things that you're going to learn about here in a few minutes. And so my hope is that you tune in with curiosity and you leave with some inspiration for something awesome that you can do and bring into your work. Maybe from nature or maybe from just a new idea that you've been sitting on, and this conversation inspired you to go forward with it because you just never know what your clients will benefit from when you trust your own imagination and combine that with your clinical skills and all the cool things you can do. So without further ado, hi, Tony. Thank you for joining me today on the show. It's so great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. This is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, kind of where you are, a little high level overview of your work, what you do, and then we will dive in from there.
Sure. Well, I am an EMDR consultant, and so I do some of the work with you guys.
Hmm.
I have a private practice that kind of spans, starting in Iowa and moving east all the way to New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts. So I see clients in all those
A few
states.
places,
What's that?
just a few places.
Just a few places, and I see some international clients too. Doing EMDR therapy, and I like to combine that with a lot of different things. All my interests. Like EMDR is a really good therapy. It's been a good therapy for me to kind of be like a really integrative therapist. So
Hmm.
I do a lot of different kinds of things. I do a lot of work, obviously across all those states. I do a lot of work online with people. But my big thing has been always trying to do work outside, trying to bring my practice into nature in some way, whether that's just, in the past I would have maybe done in-home therapy and I'd be outside with my kid clients all the time, or
Hmm.
going on hikes. If I worked in a partial program once, and so we go on a lot of hikes or go fly fishing. And so I do that a lot in my practice now. And um, some years ago, I started actually integrating EMDR with fly fishing
Hmm.
and found that as not just another way to do bilateral stimulation. That's kind of
Hmm.
like where it started, but I realized that it was a way for me to have a very grounded nature-based experience um, with my clients and incorporate all the aspects of being in nature. You have all the metaphors that can come from being in nature. You have all the five senses that are stimulated in different ways. Um, for many people, the kind of sounds that are in nature, the frequencies are
Hmm.
very regulating. A lot of it matches up with Stephen Porges polyvagal theory research into how the inner ear muscles work, in the different states they are, hearing sound frequencies and changing the states
Hmm.
to safe. So, like for a lot of people, being in nature is just regulating for them. And so, actually, like in the warmer months here where I live, I'm doing a lot of that work with clients.
Yeah.
Um, and so actually the cool thing is that that's become a major part of my training practice now.
Hmm.
So I'm moving into year number 4 of doing a yearly training with people, and it's getting really exciting. And I actually am even So we're putting together one that's going to be out in Colorado, hopefully,
Hmm.
and um, and I'm probably going to Europe in April to teach some people out there.
Wow.
Uh, so it's yeah, it's really really exciting. So yeah, that's been a ton of fun, and I didn't grow up fishing so much, and so it's really interesting that that's a part of my life right now, like in
Hmm.
more than just a recreational way, you
Sure,
know?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my dad was an avid fly fisherman and just fisherman in general. He loved it. And I'm in Colorado, so he was always going up to the mountains and fishing. And I remember, I'm a big science nerd, so he would catch the fish and I would learn about the fish via taking them apart
I was gonna say
and learning about.
dissection.
Yeah, like
Oh,
I don't want to trigger people, but yeah. Uh,
yeah,
so I
it's
would
okay. Well,
yeah,
so the listeners know in therapy if we do catch a fish, it's released back. We do it
yes,
as
it's released back.
softly and compassionately as possible, and hardly and a lot of times we don't even catch fish because that's not the main focus. So just
Not
so
the
people
main
can
focus.
hear
Yeah.
that, we automatically went to dissection here. We gotta come back back
Right.
to
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Yep. So I have so many fond memories of doing that when I was really little before my dad fell ill. But yeah, yeah, so I'm really excited to learn more about this because I do have that tiny little connection from my early childhood, fishing, especially the Blue River in Colorado. So yeah,
Well,
I'm just really,
yeah,
really
if this thing
proud.
happens in Colorado, you should come out. It's gonna
Yeah.
we have to wait until by the time this podcast come out, we'll know what we're doing, but
Hmm.
um, we can't reserve the place that we want to have it until next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But we're probably going to be in 11 Mile Canyon. Do you know where that is?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, if you
Great.
come on out.
All right, I'll come on out, take some photos
What?
and post so our listeners can listen to this podcast episode again or for the first time this summer, next summer, and then see some photos. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, let's dive in a little bit. Let's wade into the waters of therapeutic fly fishing, EMDR, which is like within the umbrella or under the umbrella of nature-based EMDR trauma
Yeah.
therapy. Um, Tell us all about it. Let's geek out together for a little bit because I'm super intrigued, and I know so many of our listeners are going to be really intrigued, even if they are not fly fisher people or don't want to necessarily integrate that, but they do want to do more nature-based stuff and they will be inspired by this. And hey, they might come out to one of your offerings or trainings. So
Yeah.
let's tell me everything. I'm really excited to learn.
Yeah. So you started this podcast by saying something about hoping that people would listen to this and allow their creativity to kind of go
Hmm.
along with their clinical judgment and make a great
Hmm.
experience. I forget
Hmm.
the exact wording you used,
Yeah.
but we're generally the best therapists for our clients when we are feeling good in the
Hmm.
session, right? Like I
Hmm.
turned down a job once. I actually got hired at a jail to be a therapist once, and it was going to give me like a $10,000 raise, and the treatment, like everyone was amazing, but I couldn't picture myself sitting within like a windowless building all day long. Like that just sounded like I would be suffering. So I
Hmm.
turned that job down. And I think part of this is listening to your own intuition as a therapist about what kind of settings and environments will have you feeling the happiest. If you have any influence on that, move yourself in that direction. And
Yes.
that's what doing therapy outside is for me. I think I'm a great therapist. I don't mean to like sound cocky, but I love the work I do and I have great relationships with my clients. So I think I'm a pretty good therapist
Yeah.
in whatever
I
setting
think
I am.
so too.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, placebo effect is strong, by the way. If you believe in something, it's good, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
um, but like definitely when I'm outside, I am in a completely different space. The relationship with the client feels very different. I feel lighter, my language is different, and healing happens faster. And
Mm.
so like that's kind of like even if people are listening to this and they don't want to go outside, maybe they can leave listening to this thinking about where do they feel the best as a person and kind of
Yes.
creating their therapy practice there so that
Yeah.
they can also be the best fit for their clients. Um,
Right. Right.
but
Because we
nature,
aren't blank slates, right? Like who we are matters and where the environment that we're working in matters. And if you're working in an office environment, windows or not, or some sort of, right? Like how can you make that environment really reflective of you and the what you want to offer and how you want to show up? And that makes you feel really good and like yourself. I think that matters. That's really important. I
I
love that
think,
you led with that.
oh, great, thanks. Yeah, I think
Yes.
it really matters. And as much control as you have in your experience to kind of
Mhm.
bring it in that direction. Because it's like, I mean, to turn this into clinical stuff, uh, if anyone has any knowledge of like neuroception listening to this already, if not, they can look it up. But
Mhm.
um, when our nervous system is doing the best and we're feeling the most grounded, whoever's next to us and near us will get that too.
Yeah.
And then we have co-regulation happening. That's what we want to happen in therapy. That's like no matter what kind of therapy anyone's doing, we want co-regulation to exist so that
Definitely.
people at least feel that and feel more regulated when they leave. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what you're trying to learn or do in therapy. We like that's like rule number
Key.
one, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So going outside, whether or not you're fly fishing, being outside, for me allows for that. And so if anyone is primed to be outside and then you have clients that way, like that's already like a win situation.
Hmm.
And then if you're outside and you're by the moving water, earlier I brought up the Stephen Porges thing. He found out when he was researching for the polyvagal theory that the inner ear muscles um, change their focus depending on your nervous system state. So if you're in a more activated nervous system state, dorsal vagal, fight or flight state,
Hmm.
um, your inner ear muscle is perceiving low frequency sounds more because those are the sounds of predators coming from far away.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And if you're in a more regulated state, if you're feeling safer, more socially connected, your inner ear muscles are more attuned to hearing the sounds of human communication.
Hmm.
Those have to be close sounds. Those are in the mid to high range of sound frequencies. And I found out, so I'm trained in the safe and sound protocol, which is where I learned that stuff.
Hmm.
When I was probably the second year that I was doing my training, like for therapists to learn therapeutic fly fishing with EMDR, I was trying to beef up the polyvagal part.
Hmm.
And so I basically just researched. I had to go through different like civil engineering journals to find out like what sound frequencies different water flowed at. And it just so happens that the places where you go fly fishing, not Niagara Falls,
Sure.
like a medium-sized river that's flowing,
Hmm.
is within that same sound frequency range of human communication. So
Okay.
if you're in that long enough, your nervous system will adjust.
Hmm.
Just like the safe and sound protocol, I think works.
Okay.
Your nervous system adjusts and just relaxes. Um,
Wow.
for,
That's
for many
cool.
people, right? If you have trauma by water and that's a trigger for you or something, obviously that's maybe a different
That'll be
story.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter what you do outside. I'm sure that same thing with the sound is maybe there's something with the wind rustling through the trees that's also in that
Yeah.
same, right? I think just
Hmm.
being outside, just in that way with our five senses can
Hmm.
really regulate us. And you can do any kind of therapy outside. You can just go outside and not talk and have that be a therapy session. The person go home and maybe you feel okay.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, we are nature, humans are nature. We're not living, alongside nature. We are nature. We're part of like the larger like ecosystems around us. And so, being outside and having all of those positive effects, like you know, having our new nervous system kind of harmonize with it or ground in certain situations outside or different environments, that just makes sense that there is that alignment because, well, we're part of nature. So
Yeah.
I love that now there's some, research or some other information out there that lines that up for us so that, we
Yeah.
can figure out how to kind of come back to nature for different things, not just for like fun and recreation, but also for healing. And, of course, many indigenous cultures throughout the world across time have been doing that and teaching that for a long time. So it's not that it's brand new, but being able to bring more people to the awareness and to the knowledge of just how much being outside and hearing the water or hearing the wind rustle through the leaves or watching, bunnies run around or whatever it is, like how much of that actually is meaningful to us and can be really healing. I think
Yeah.
that's important to just remember.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's another thing too, when it comes to being outside. So I have kind of a little bit of a background in adventure-based counseling.
Cool.
Before I was a therapist, I was between being in the military and going to school for counseling, I was teaching English, and I was a very active teacher. I played a lot of games. So then when I went to school for counseling, I actually had one of my professors was one of the big presenters and writers in adventure-based counseling at the time. So
Hmm.
I just like felt it just fell right in, and it really connected with how I liked to teach and do things. And so fun has always been a part of learning for me.
Hmm.
And I think that for me, like in therapy, we're learning too. Like our nervous system is learning, our body is relearning,
Hmm.
we're reprocessing things, we're making new neural networks and things like that, right? So,
Hmm.
and I think fun plays a big role in that. And when you think about, and so there's the nervous system state for fun is like a hybrid state, right between um, dorsal vagal and ventral vagal, like activated and feeling safe. It's actually like right there in between. So if you're playing soccer with your friends and you're really competitive and you're trying to beat them, but you're having fun at the same time,
Hmm.
you know, that's that hybrid state. So I'm sure this happens in other kinds of nature-based therapy too, without fly fishing, like maybe if
Hmm.
you're hiking or something like that. But if you're fishing and you actually hook a fish, you engage with that thing, and it becomes a little bit of a fight in a sense. Like you're connected to it. You want to treat it safely, but you have a goal to accomplish, and your heart is racing and it's beating. And then you have that. Maybe the therapist and you are working together as a team to get that and release it.
Hmm.
You have like engaged a different part of your brain that you don't
Yeah.
always engage in other kinds of therapy. And that that kind of whatever you're processing there in the moment might stick more uh, might stick longer, right? More
Hmm.
permanently. So
Hmm.
that's a one thing to think about being outside too. Just thinking about nervous system states. I always try to make sure fun is a part of also relaxation too,
Yeah.
but fun shows up in some way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. I love that. I do think that is really important. So, how does the therapeutic fly fishing EMDR work? Like, walk us through kind of that process or like kind of what the like the theoretical like underpinnings or just like the process of it. What are some of the elements
Yeah.
about it that you think people would really benefit from hearing from so that then they can go online and learn a little bit more about signing up for a course or signing up as a client to experience it?
Sure. So if that, hope I'm assuming that a lot of people listening to this podcast are already EMDR therapists. If they're not, then they can look up the AIP model.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's really just like supercharged AIP and backed up by a lot more nervous system regulation.
Okay.
So like in therapeutic fly fishing with EMDR, I come from an attachment focused kind of background.
Mm-hmm.
So phase two kind of stuff is really important to how I do the work. I think about phase two in EMDR as far as like grounding goes, being kind of like surrounding the entire process. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
something we do and then we move along.
Forget
It's
about, yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's creating the entire boundary around the process. And so we can always fall back into that
Mm-hmm.
um, anytime. And so like in a session, before I even bring people to the water, we're in an office, maybe we're online. I'm making sure that they're safe. We're doing some grounding exercises. And a part of that process too is, because we're doing something that's new for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think about the confidence factor, again, going back to like placebo. Like if you believe that you
Mm-hmm.
can do something or something, um, it will happen, greater, right? It'll
Mm-hmm.
have a bigger effect. So before we're even at the water, I'm kind of introducing them to the equipment, letting them pick their fly, using everything as a metaphor along the way. And then we'll kind of like progressively, we might not even go to the water right away in a session. We might take a little bit of time to cast, to practice. But then when we go to the water, we usually kind of do a grounding exercise, near the water. There's a lot of rocks where I am, so I usually have them kind of make a connection to the environment in some way. We'll do a mindfulness exercise, or we'll do some deep breathing, or we'll do some resourcing, and we'll be using the various parts of nature as metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
And and depending on what someone needs, again, like being an attachment focused therapist, I think a lot about like the qualities that a person didn't get during their trauma, especially
Mm-hmm.
if they grew up with trauma as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Using the different things in nature to help enhance those qualities, whatever they might be. So maybe using something, people often look at trees as like a very protective thing, using
Yeah.
trees to be a protective resource, or the moving water just representing calm and peacefulness or something like that, and just tapping those in. And but when we start processing, this is where things kind of start to get a little different.
Mm-hmm.
When I was first doing this, I would be doing kind of like the ships passing in the night kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
like near them to kind of pay attention, but not like really close, but like standing near them to kind of pay attention to their processing as they're casting, and they're noticing. And if they're standing in the water and the water's moving, they're still kind of doing some physical kind of back and forth anyway to keep balance. So your body's always
Sure.
moving.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be standing near them to pay attention and just to make sure they're doing all right. And then one day, one client told me, she said, actually, I would really like it if you fished too. It feels really weird that you're standing in looking at me. And I said, I get that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to be? She's like, oh, just wherever you want. So I said, okay. So I was fishing, and then I realized as I'm fishing too, I could feel the difference between us. I
Mm.
felt a shift between both of us to just be more relaxing. And I realized like this is co-regulation right now. And so
Mm-hmm.
I call that co-regulation casting, where like,
Oh, I love
yeah, so I came up with a name
it.
for that, you know? And
Quite
and so
literally.
yeah, so
Yeah.
if someone were to watch us doing this, it might look like two people are just fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a lot different than doing EMDR where you're counting sets and stopping and checking in. There's a lot less of that. I do go check in and come back. It's very soft. I,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I try to make sure the client knows I'm coming up near them. I try to just check in and I kind of fade back. The language too um, is a lot more relational. I call it buddy talk. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, instead of saying like, what are you noticing now? I might come up and I say, hey, what's up? What you noticing? What's going on? Or something like that. Something much
Yeah. Yeah.
more plain, because outside is just way more relaxed.
It's so
But-
different. Yeah.
And,
Oh, wow.
people sometimes, there are some times where clients have had a physical kind of experience when they're processing, but I noticed that overall, like in an office, a client might, their body might just be just really active, while they're
Mm-hmm.
processing. People sometimes are just so engaged and there's so much going on around them that they don't have that kind of physical stuff going on, but they also process really fast. Like they get through targets really fast somehow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really beautiful. So it's like, and even if we don't fly a fish, even if we just hike or we're just there
Mm-hmm.
sitting next to the water, we're doing just nature-based therapy without fly fishing,
Mm-hmm.
everything can still happen. It's really nice. It's just really nice and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I imagine that sounds really awesome and intriguing. When I think about it, I think about how, um, my experience in nature and the way that when I've been in nature and I've intentionally sought out, you know, nature, like the natural realm to like hold space for my pain or grief or healing, whatever it is, like it feels like there's so much more room for me and my stuff that it feels a lot less um uh oh, what is, I guess, fragile, right?
Mm,
Because like in that hour, like 1 hour session in an office, it feels like so like time's just going to pass. It feels, temporary. And it's not going to, I don't know, can the room hold it, right? Can this little office hold all of this? And it's
uh-huh.
such a subconscious or unconscious thing for, some folks. For me, it was very conscious, and I would intentionally go to certain spots in the mountains, whereas like a lot of rocks, there's a lot of cliff, because that could hold anything, right? Like I could be an earthquake and it would probably be okay right here, right? So that sense of like how much nature in the natural realm can hold felt
Yeah.
really safe and secure for me. In those times that I just kind of did my own rituals in nature.
Yeah.
Um, and I could see how, like, if I was doing EMDR, like as a client, right? Like, wow, I could really see how being in that environment or just being outside, especially as you describe, and knowing what we just learned about nervous system and how it really resonates along with the sounds in nature. Um, I could see how processing would go not just faster, but feel like it maybe it would feel less distressing to go through that reprocessing phases, or even if it was something big really came up and you needed to wail or whatever it is, like you're outside, man. Like
Yeah.
it's
So right.
fine. It's
I mean,
fine.
yeah,
Do it.
people do
Yeah.
have a lot of emotions showing up, at times, but like, um, but yeah, it is a very safe place. And then you
Mhm.
have like the moving water to like just kind of like I just feel like there's
It
just so
moves it
much
right on
thing,
out.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny as you were explaining all that, my mind went to like my resource, like my mental resource, like my own kind of calm, safe place is this place that I went to a couple times, and I haven't been there in a very long time, but I remember viscerally what it was like there. Like my body remembers, and
Hmm.
all the sights and sounds come back. And it's just like it's a valley.
Hmm.
It's a lake in a valley with like mountains on both sides and like the sky at the end. It's
Hmm.
in the Adirondacks. It's this lake up in one of the mountains in the Adirondacks. And I haven't been there in years, but like I can think about it right now and I feel like I've been transported there and it just calms me. And it's like a lot of these it's like I'm having a good experience with someone outside and they're healing. Like there's an opportunity for that to stay with them even longer than the session.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
I guess if we're in an office that can happen too. Like the
Sure.
office travel with someone, but I think that there's like you were mentioning, there's so much about the outdoors that we can just give away. Like they can hold
Hmm.
the nature can hold what I have. Like
Hmm.
anything that I have can be held by nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. When you're doing that, the fly fishing EMDR, are the phases, or is like the reprocessing kind of similar type of flow? You mentioned, you might be standing alongside fly fishing as well, maybe not. But are you still like looking for disturbance and kind of monitoring
Yeah.
how much that disturbance is changing? Are you still kind of doing the basics?
Absolutely.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It just changes how it looks depending on where you are and what you're doing.
Hmm.
Um, so like if someone's not in the water and we're maybe let's say we decide to sit on some rocks
Hmm.
and we're not going to the water and it feels like it's time to process, we'll go through a phase three, we'll set it all up, and it's again phase three is done like in buddy talk.
Hmm.
Right? So I'll just kind of it's a very casual way of bringing them through kind of the target.
Hmm.
And then, they get to decide whatever kind of bilateral stimulation they do while they're sitting. They might tap or they might rock or they might do something.
Hmm.
But in the water, it's also like if we're standing at the water's edge or they're kind of up to their shins in the water or whatever, um, I'll again like, I'll say like, okay, it feels like this is time to do the work. What do you think? Sure. Okay. So I'll go through very casually kind of the targeting questions. And I'll
Hmm.
just say, okay, just let whatever shows up be there, without filtering, just be present with that and just cast. And by then I'll know if they want me to be near them or go
Yeah.
away.
Hmm.
And I'll just let them know I'll come back and check on you once in a while. And if you need me, you know where I am. Just be a part of the process and they'll just cast. So,
Yeah. So the
and the
casting is the BLS, the bilateral stimulation.
So
Yeah.
that's what it started as. Like when I
Hmm.
was out in the river once, um, I had the last person I did a podcast with called it a Robin Shapiro moment. So,
Yeah.
or someone called it a Robin Shapiro moment where I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is happening right now as I was
Right.
casting. So like you don't cast really fast, right? That you don't do the
Sure.
Indiana Jones thing. Sometimes you can, like if you want
Hmm.
that, you can whip the fly back and forth to get that.
Hmm.
I have a friend that does this with me. My friend Dan Pierce, who was kind of one of the first people that started doing this with me. He co-trains with me, and he'll teach some things like that. But generally, people are just casting upstream, watching it float down, and casting back. So it's
Mm.
very slow bilateral stimulation.
Hmm.
Or you can do different things with the rod while it's going down to kind of give you that. You can go up and down with the rod. You can kind of pulse back and forth. But generally, people are just getting very slow, like sets, long drift and casting back. But the thing is that it doesn't even matter if they're casting or not. If you're standing in the water and it's kind of moving past your
You're going
feet,
to be moving, swaying.
exactly, little
Hmm.
micro movements back and forth to stay
Hmm.
balanced. And I have a colleague who's like super into EMDR 2.0,
Hmm.
and we were having a little bit of a professional argument about it this summer. uh, about phase two and all these different things. And she's like, well, you don't really need phase two, like if you're grounded, whatever. And I was like, well, phase two is really important. We kind of got into that part. I like EMDR 2.0 a lot
Yeah.
um, and a lot more since this conversation with her. Um, where she was like, with fly fishing, you're doing EMDR 2.0 and you don't even know it
Hmm.
because you're changing everything up. And sometimes you're maybe not even doing bilateral stimulation, but the body has something that it's doing.
Right.
Yeah, so I've actually been thinking about that a lot and how just being outside in general really opens up the possibilities for anything to
Hmm.
help the processing happen, whether or not you're doing something controlled or if you're just allowing yourself to be present and letting the process unfold.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think about like when we think about how we used to talk about bilateral stimulation, and then people were, throwing in like, well, maybe it's more about the dual attention. Oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And I think about, rhythm and um and how, there's so many ways that our rhythms can be bilateral stimulation, right?
yeah,
If we're thinking about it in terms of like why we're talking about BLS today, EMDR reprocessing, and things that we know about that. For anyone that's listening that's not EMDR trained, sorry for all the EMDR lingo. And but essentially, bilateral stimulation is movement that crosses the midline of the body. So, your eyes going from side to side, crossing the midline of the body, or tapping, your hands are crossed at your chest and you tap left, right, left, right. That's bilateral, using both sides of your body. You could sway, you could shrug your shoulders alternately, you could do all kinds of things that technically cross the midline of the brain. Um, and sometimes, there's people out there that have disabilities where they can't move their bodies at all or in specific ways, but there's absolutely a million ways that they can still do bilateral stimulation or bilateral movements. Sometimes just thinking about bilateral, something jumping over the midline of your brain, like a little like grain of salt just jumping, like that kind of imagining can have the same effect as your eyes actually moving or your hands tapping or your feet marching. Um, so anyway, think about, just wanted to explain that for people who are not EMDR therapists. And yes, that's a big part of EMDR therapy, obviously, but it's not the whole picture. Um, but I think about how we're in nature. You were saying, with EMDR 2.0 and some of those kind, fun professional arguments that we have with each other about that. Um, you know, bilateral stimulation, is we created a word or a process that describes a natural human and animal and just nature phenomenon, right?
Exactly.
There's this
Yeah.
motion, there's this movement, and we as humans and lots of animals sway, right? When you see a lot of people, classic example is, people holding a baby and they're trying to soothe the baby. They sway. You're not just standing still with a
Yeah.
baby, but we're also not like explicitly told a lesson about how to sway with a baby. You hold a
Exactly.
baby and you sway. It's just what we do. And
Exactly. Yeah.
I think about how when we have all this trauma stored in our bodies in all these ways, and maybe it's not trauma, right? Maybe it's something else, right? And it's in our bodies, it's causing a lot of distress, and we get out of a rhythm, right? We might not even be in a swaying rhythm, whatever that means for ourselves, right? It's just the energy is so different. It might be stuck in certain places. We might feel super rigid, or the way that our, movements and rhythms are going within our nervous system is just very dysregulating in and of itself, right? Because we're hypervigilant, we're experiencing whatever it is. So I think about EMDR or bilateral stimulation as a way of, re-accessing or recreating sometimes our rhythms,
Exactly.
so that our nervous systems can flow, so that, our bones that are holding memories can like that can move through, right? I love EMDR because it's very easy to decolonize, which is a big thing for me working with different communities of color, but specifically, my cultural identities. It's a really important thing to do and to remember that these movements, and when you get out in nature, it's really hard to deny, right? Like this is
Mhm.
part of who we are as beings on this earth, and we know how to do it. It's like a reminder. We just need the conditions and the people, like the supports around
Yeah.
us, so that we can do that. We can't do it all on our own, but our bodies know, our minds know, and so I love that you brought up, like, you could just be standing in the water, and the water might be leading you to kind of naturally sway just so because you're keeping your balance, right? Um, so maybe you're not intentionally, okay, now I'm going to sway left, right? But like you're in the water and you're feeling the water move you. Um, and so I could just see how like this could be really transformational for people um, who feel really called to do that type of healing work in that environment and with someone that gets it too.
It's cool. Yeah. And I want to, so, you know, when people learn EMDR, a lot of times, myself included, when I learned EMDR, and when a lot of clients come, the focus is a lot of times on the bilateral stimulation as being
Yeah.
kind of the thing that EMDR is using, but it's really
Hmm.
just there to help the process happen.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people get into like discussions, like you said, is it the bilateral stimulation, the left and right hemisphere
Hmm.
talking, or is it dual attention, being present while thinking of that thing? It's both.
Hmm.
And,
It's
you know,
everything. Yeah.
everything. It's
Yeah.
everything. And sometimes you get dual attention without doing explicit bilateral stimulation.
Hmm.
When I come back to when I'm explaining this stuff to my clients and a lot of times the people I'm consulting with, I let them know what's important to me. And what's important to me is that a person feels grounded so that they can safely bring up this stuff that they're processing through and then let their brain kind of their left brain energy kind of go down a bit so their creativity in their right brain and their emotions can be more present. And
Hmm.
bilateral stimulation is one way to kind of enhance that, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
that happens also with feeling grounded. And the funny thing about being outside, let's say standing next to a river, what are you looking at? If you're not fishing and you're standing next to a river, where are your eyes? They're in
My eyes are usually on the water.
the water.
Yeah, water
They're
is
over,
going by, and
yeah, then
you
they're
kind
over
of track the
there.
water. Yeah,
Then they're over
and
there, and then they're over there, then they're on that tree, and
exactly.
that tree over there. Like, so you're kind of like doing
Your
anyway,
eyes are bouncing around. Yeah,
your eyes are
bilateral.
bouncing around. And so, like,
Uh-huh.
even with casting, if it's a slow drift, you might be looking at where the line is in the water, then back at the rod, then back at the line, then at your hand. Like you're doing, your eyes are
Mm-hmm.
moving. And so the the purpose is just to have a person be in a regulated state so that they can naturally move through stuff. And that's what EMDR is all about anyway. We get out of the
Yeah.
way.
Mm-hmm.
So being in
Mm-hmm.
nature, I feel like we can get even more out of the way, still be
Mm-hmm.
there to hold the process, but like we let more space come around for the process to happen naturally.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's that's just amazing.
You're going outside with your next client, I think, because that's what.
I'm gonna take myself outside
Yeah.
and uh, bring my dog. My dog some little EMDR in the wood outside. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
what's that? That's quadrilateral stimulation
Yes,
there. Yeah.
quadrilateral. Yep, we're both gonna benefit. Um, this is kind of going in a dip. Like, I'm curious if you've ever had like that, the expansiveness of being out there be something that has been like, has it been too much for people? Like, I find like, oh, that's amazing. I would love, like, I want the entire mountain range to hold this. Has that
Yeah.
ever been kind of had the opposite effect for people once they're out there?
So not for me,
Hmm.
and I think it could be just luck, but I feel
Hmm.
like I do a pretty good assessment process with people in the beginning to kind of gauge what they're comfortable with and to bring them to the right places. So,
Okay.
I mean, nature-based therapy can happen on a sidewalk
Hmm.
in the middle of a town. I mean, you still have all those things around you, and you might not be fly fishing on that sidewalk in the middle of town, but you can still do all the things that you might do somewhere else.
Hmm.
And so I've never had a person have like an abreaction to being outside,
Hmm.
but I do think about what if a bear shows up?
Hmm.
Happen. But like when
Gotta
I'm
have
with,
that.
right? Or like
Yeah.
sometimes, this is also in the consent process, there might be another person outside that knows one of us. What do we do? Like so sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I try to have those conversations with people in the beginning so that they feel more secure, like they feel like they've had a say in the process so that let's say their friend shows up and they recognize me as a therapist and they're like, "Oh, I know what's going on here."
Hmm.
Like they feel okay. We've already had a conversation about that. But there's a lot of people who do nature-based work. Um, I know a guy that is out in Colorado and he will bring his clients out to the Bureau of Land Management property, like the federal land, and be out there for weeks with nobody around.
Hmm.
Um, and he's okay with that, and his clients are okay with that. And I think he's probably got some like wilderness first responder training or something that makes that
Oh,
easier.
sure. Yep.
I prefer to bring my clients to a place where I know if something happens, there's going to be help. So I
Hmm.
don't hike deep into the wilderness with my clients. Usually, where I go, if I'm fly fishing, is at like the state park that I like to go to around where I am, and so we're really close to a ranger station. We're
Hmm.
really close to bathrooms. There's Wi-Fi. There's those things, but we can have an experience that's separated from those as well.
Yeah.
So I think what happens, like for me, that makes me feel safer, just so I know there's some help in case something goes wrong. Like if a person falls and hurts themselves, I can go get help. I think
Hmm.
that also communicates a lot of safety for the client that I'm thinking about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, I've never had a bear show up. But there are people who do this in Montana that have a higher likelihood than me, and they probably have different safety
Hmm.
operations than me
Hmm.
already lined up in their
Yeah.
head.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I remember, having to do a lot of the wilderness safety stuff before doing some of this stuff with my clients. And I led a adventure group too,
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
long before as a therapist, just for fun. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't know anything. I need to learn things about, surviving out here just in case. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that is also a type of support that you don't get in an office with, like, for the most part, right? Like, so the experience of safety making alongside your therapist during that process, I can imagine is so reparative for a lot of people because, you know, It's collaborative, but there's a lot that you've thought of ahead of time that you bring to the table and say, these are the things I've already thought of and do, right? Here are some of the things, like you might have a client that's diabetic. And you're like, all right, let's talk about that. What do you need for when we're out there? Like, here's the ranger station is over here. I've made sure I've had extra snacks or, whatever it is that you've identified that help you if you're experiencing low blood sugar or whatever, just as an
Exactly.
example. And these aren't typical safety making conversations that we have when a client is coming to our office. We will have them, but they might be very different.
Hmm.
I worked with people experiencing or like in the midst of violent or abusive relationships. And so there were absolutely times where we had to figure out, what does safety making mean if they followed you here, or if they figure out, like there's just different types of things, safety making things that, you know, uh, that I think add to the positive and healing experience long before you do any technical like EMDR reprocessing work. And I
Yeah.
think about how when you set up the stage like that, you're already so many steps ahead when it comes to that relational attachment, those aspects of the healing process as well, that obviously you probably most likely were not part of their childhood trauma or the reason why they're coming to you for therapy. But having that experience can be so transformative. And so it just, really does set the stage then for once you're actually out there, outside, either on the sidewalk or on the, ankle or shin high in the water. It's just,
Yeah.
you have this foundation of safety and being held.
And exactly. And
And
that's EMDR phase two, right? That's all
yeah,
about
it's all phase two.
building trust and safety and grounding. Like when, that therapeutic relationship too is all about trust, right?
Hmm.
So even developing rapport is 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 kind of creating safety, right? So when you can
Hmm.
do it and you have this bigger contract that just happens to show up about safety, that I think can make a really big difference in how the therapy happens for people.
Hmm.
Um, and even it's like the small things, like I carry a walkie-talkie on me and I leave one at the ranger station. So if something happens, like they can see, they know
Yeah.
that they're going to get help. Or like in the trainings that I do, um, me and the co-trainer will have a walkie-talkie. And this summer it was 100 degrees, so I brought an EMT with. He
Hmm.
fished with us. We never had to use him, but he was ready.
Hmm. Yeah.
Carry water,
Smart.
carry snacks. Like
Yeah.
there's these just micro suggestions of safety that really make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I like they make a big difference in that moment and for the work. And I think it also like expands out. It generalizes out to a sense of being cared for and cared enough about to think about all of that stuff ahead of time and throughout the process.
Yeah.
And someone with lots of attachment trauma, like they may have never experienced that, right?
Yeah.
Ever. Or even know how to create that for somebody else, or for themselves. And so being able to receive it in that way, I can imagine is just so restorative. Like just that part alone makes me excited about the process.
Yeah. And you know what? And this is all true. And then it's fun. Like
Hmm.
I had a client, I had a client once, like not this past summer, but the summer before. So last year, summer, 2024, he'd come out a couple times already. Like he'd probably been out once a week, 3 times already.
Hmm.
And he came out again and he had I had been working with him already. He'd done some processing, but like outside was really working for him. He was feeling much more regulated. And we actually had done like all the EMDR phase work already outside, like almost every time we'd been out. And he showed up this fourth time and he was like, "Hey, I I know that we do a lot of fishing, but I'd like to do some therapy today." And I said, "Oh, that's great. Well, do you? I'm sorry you didn't know, but actually, we've been doing therapy this whole time. If you let's talk about what's happened." Like in his brain, he was having such a good time
Yeah.
and it felt so good and natural for him. And we had done like traditional EMDR processing in the office before. It didn't compute for him. Like his
Right.
body felt
It's like
he
he
was
forgot.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the thing is like he was actually doing much better in his life.
Hmm.
He was more grounded, and so he was actually his body was more ready to show up and process deeper things. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, what he was saying, but it came through the filter of like, I'm just fishing and having fun. I actually want to do some work right now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you mentioned a training. I know you train people with a colleague, or at least one colleague. Can you talk a little bit about the training and how people can learn how to do this?
Sure. So the way that the training is now, it's either a 2 whole day training or an afternoon, a full day, and a morning training, depending on how
Hmm.
I'm doing it. 15 EMDR credits and 15 CEUs. And
Nice.
then, yeah, and then included in that is kind of 6 months of follow-on consultation. Usually like 1 hour of group. If it's a group, I'll keep the cohort together and we'll do 1 hour of group consultation. And I usually have them kind of come up with a case presentation and thoughtfully kind of like write that up kind of by the end of the process, just so people can grow in the process and I can
Hmm.
kind of tell. But so yeah, so that's what the training is. And if we do it in a group, they'll stay together. If I do it, I also do it one-on-one depending on what a person needs. So this last October, I worked with a brand new EMDR therapist. Um, it- we thought about maybe doing a small group training, but we did it just one-on-one. And it turned out like that was perfect because I could adjust to him because he was a brand new EMDR therapist.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we often do it retreat style.
Hmm.
So the last 3 years that I've done it, they've been here in Vermont. Last 2 years in Vermont, the year before in New Hampshire. Um, and we'll stay somewhere. We kind of have it be very communal. Um, a little in-class stuff, some PowerPoint, some lecture. 3/4 of the time we're out on the water fishing, and it's very
Hmm.
experiential.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure if we're going to have one this year in Vermont. It's looking like the where we're going to have it is going to be kind of a camp-based one, a little bit more rustic in Colorado.
Hmm.
Uh, if that goes through, if not, we'll kind of fall back to Vermont.
Hmm.
Um, but that's kind of what it looks like right now. We usually try to do one group training a year, and brought my friend Dan. He co-trains with me now, Dan Pierce in Maine. But this year I started offering kind of the one-on-one option for people if people need
Hmm.
that, and I still apply for EMDRIA CEUs with it, so they still get the same kind of thing out of it, but it's
Wow. Hmm.
more individualized. Um, it's a different kind of training, and so if people are in Vermont, actually that training is covered by grant funding in Vermont, the state, if
Oh,
a person qualifies. Yeah, if
okay.
a person qualifies for income, the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation will pay for it.
Wow, that's
Full
great.
cost. Yeah. So it kind of helps if people are brand new EMDR therapists or they're coming out of grad school and like
Hmm.
they're not making very much in community mental health or something like that, they can get trained in this and kind of level up really quick rather than trying to like scoop funds together. Because to learn EMDR it already costs a lot of money.
Sure.
Scaling up doesn't charge that much money, but
It's
a lot
still
of
a
times
lot. It's still a lot for people. Yeah. Hmm.
it's still a chunk, right? And um so I try, I'm trying to think about it in the terms of like what can make this accessible for people, not just cost wise, but like learning wise, trying to meet their
Hmm.
needs.
Hmm.
So yeah. So if we do it one-on-one, it's usually like over 2 days. If we do
Hmm.
it in a group, I try to spread that out over
Yeah.
3 days to make it a little bit easier. And
Right.
yeah, there's this really, I can't talk about it much because this will ruin the secret for people that come train with me. I I have something special that I give to people from training. That's kind of a nice token. But when they come train, usually people leave. I have designed my own fishing rod to use
Mm.
in this work,
Hmm.
um, and so people get that. They usually get a
They
T-shirt.
get a rod? They get a rod
Yeah,
to, wow.
take it home. Yeah, my
Really
my
generous.
my
Yeah.
own fishing rod that I designed for this
Okay.
works. It's really cool. So I try to like keep it really fun, kind of summer camp feeling. I want people to leave with a really good feeling. I want people to leave feeling taken care of and connected to community.
Hmm.
So yeah,
That's amazing, Tony.
really great.
Wow. That's great. I love this. I'm definitely looking forward to the feedback we get from folks who listen to this. I think people are going to be really excited about it. And I'm just looking at your website again. There's just a lot of really good information on here about the therapeutic fly fishing and about the training program. So I'll definitely link to this in the show notes, so that people can easily find um, the information of how to learn more, how to sign up, how to experience it for themselves if they would like to as a client. And yeah, just spread the word 'cause it sounds really fantastic. And you make it
Yeah,
sound very accessible. Like this is something that is possible. And it's not this like far out idea that it's like way too complicated to figure out and make happen. Like, no, it's possible.
yeah,
And so it's really what we wanted people to walk away with. Like after listening to this, you know, you can make it happen. You can learn how to be out in nature and support your clients having a healing experience out in nature. So fly
yeah.
fishing or other, nature-based, adventure-based stuff, because you have a lot of, experience and knowledge and a lot of generosity to share it. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate this
No,
conversation.
thanks. One technical thing, just so I'm
Hmm.
a little AD, so my webpage is kind of all over the place. I have someone helping with me, so the webpage hopefully is going to look better soon. But there is a directory on there
Yeah,
of the
I see.
different people that have come to train with me. And so if someone wants to do this, they should go and check out the therapist directory and just see if there's
Hmm.
someone near them that they can try this out with. If they're just want to be a client or, and then if
Hmm.
they're interested in learning, they can get in touch with me. But one thing I want people to walk away from today also is kind of like what I try to influence people in the training is like, and actually when I ask people to write up their case presentation for me, this is a part of that. I want to see what they're doing that's new. I
Hmm.
think it's really like EMDR is maybe the most amazing therapy for putting yourself in as an individual person, like
Hmm.
really making it yours and bringing whatever, like you said, whatever kind of excites you with your clinical judgment or whatever,
Hmm.
you can make it an art.
Yeah.
And being outdoors allows for all that to happen. But there's so many other ways to make EMDR an art. And so
Hmm.
that's what I hope to like when people learn from me, I want them to take that home and so they can feel
Hmm.
more directly connected to the healing process. But I hope people can leave with that here too. Like maybe there's something really interesting that they do that could really enhance their
Yeah.
practice and healing potential with people. And
Hmm.
maybe no one's doing it right now. Maybe they could teach on it, and so all
Exactly.
of from that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very good way.
I agree. Yeah. And I really, I love that inspiration, that reminder to, you know, there is something that you have. And, there is a way that you can express yourself and your creativity as a trauma therapist to support your client's healing process that might be out of the box, and maybe we need more of that. I think we need more of the out of the box. It's, grounded in, you know, yeah, grounded in the needs of the clients and, staying true to your ethics and your values. I think that's really important. So yeah, just looking at the directory, y'all, and there's lots of people on the East Coast. There's some people in the Northwest. There's, a couple people kind of in the middle. So
Got some
yeah,
Canadians now. We got
I'm
two Canadians
Canadian. I see
last year.
that.
It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
and
So it's growing. Yeah, I
yeah,
love it.
I'm really hoping that like, one reason for going to Colorado, I've tried a few times to go out west and usually like, setting up something retreat style in a place I don't know has some barriers. So I'm really excited that more people maybe out west can come.
Hmm.
Um, and also I'm working on developing kind of a way for other people that have learned from me to teach this.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping in the next few years to kind of really expand and have this be less about people trying to like learn and work from me that like, this is something that a lot of other people can offer and
Hmm.
maybe
Hmm.
they're in their own area, their own regular area and a resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, thank you again for taking this time to talk with me and share this. I think people are really going to be jazzed and Yeah, I'm really excited that you're going to be here in Colorado. Let me know how that works out.
I'll let you
Hopefully it
know.
works
Yeah.
out. And
Oh,
yeah, I definitely would love to be able to share that with folks, pop down, see how it goes, just see what it's all about. Yeah, I think this could be a really great opportunity. So, um, I will share your contact information on our show notes so that people can, reach out to you, watch the website for any announcements of, future offerings in Colorado or otherwise this next year, and just really stay connected with you so that they can, um, continue to expand their own practice through, getting support with you if that's what they want to do, which I highly recommend. Um, yeah, so yeah, thanks again, Tony. Is there anything you want people to end this podcast knowing? Any final like words of wisdom or encouragements that you would like to offer?
yeah. You have the power.
Yes.
He-Man style. You have, or whatever. You have the power to make this therapy that you do. If you're an EMDR therapist, or if you're any other kind of therapist, like it's all in you. The real work that happens between you and the clients is because of what you bring to the table. And
Mhm.
so to really focus on that and just make what you do as an artist, as a therapist about you being in the process and be as authentic as you can. And you'll be
Mhm.
surprised at the difference that can make, not just for the client, but for your own process and how you go home and feel and grow as a person.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I don't need to add anything to that. That was great. Thank you, Tony, so much. And for all of you listening, I hope that you have felt really inspired and reminded to remain true to your authentic self and keep your practice authentically you, because that is when your clients will benefit the most and when you will also experience the benefits of not burning out. Um, so tune in next time. And until then, we hope you continue to scale up your impact. We can't wait to connect again in the future.